This building has a story unlike any other. Once the jewel in the crown of two giant empires, for 1,500 years, it's just about survived wars, looting, fires, and multiple earthquakes. But a recent surge in seismic activity has sparked fears this magnificent structure could be in mortal danger when a very big quake hits in the future. And that really is not a case of if, but when.
We know sooner or later it will happen. That's why many institutions, governments and ministries is preparing for the earthquake.
And while it survived a lot during the last millennium and a half, the damage that has built up over the centuries is now seriously starting to show, which is why one of our planet's most historic buildings is going through one of the biggest and most important upgrades of its long and eventful life.
This project is fusing the engineering and construction genius of the past with the technological tools of the modern age.
Without it, this marvel of the ancient world could become ancient history. There's nowhere else like Istanbul, the only major city in the world that straddles two continents divided by the Bosphorus Strait. And overlooking this busiest of waterways is Istanbul's most iconic landmark, the majestic Hagia Sophia. The name means holy wisdom, but in ancient Greek, which gives you a real sense of just how old and globally significant this building is. Angkor Wat, the Tower of London, Notre Dame, the Vikings, all of them came after Hagia Sophia. But go and stand outside it today and you might wonder what all the fuss is about, because it's virtually disappeared underneath a mountain of scaffolding.
We're going to come on to why that's had to happen very soon, but to really understand this building's present and where it's heading in the future, you first got to get to grips with its extraordinary past. Many people put this building up there with the pyramids, the Colosseum, and the Great Wall of China as one of the greatest structures ever built.
Finished in 537 AD, it was the main cathedral of Constantinople for over 9 centuries. Constantinople being the former name of Istanbul, when it was the capital of the Eastern Roman or Byzantine Empire. It was so spectacular, Emperor Justinian I, who commissioned it, is thought to have shouted, "Solomon, I have surpassed thee," upon its completion.
He was talking about King Solomon and his temple, which, if you know your scriptures, is a major flex.
Justinianus tried to show his power to the public. That's why he started a very big project. It's all politics, as today. The structure of Hagia Sophia took only 5 years. He wanted to build a very big, very impressive building in a very short time.
But like any big thinker, Justinianus didn't let his need for speed stop him from having grand ambitions. The central dome, with a 31-metre diameter, was designed to give the impression that it was floating above the floor. And it would have been successful in its illusion, because this is when a certain building innovation was used for the very first time. They're called pendentives. It's where 4 curved triangular segments are placed at the top of a square base to create a circular dome. But with so much vertical force pushing downwards and lateral thrust pushing outwards, the dome needed additional support.
That's why they built the main dome with 2 half domes, because they were supposed to use 4 half domes to support the building. But when you use 4 half domes, you need 4 giant pillars and they dominate the building.
Set to the east and west of the main dome, these semi-domes help to channel some of the weight and thrust down to the arches, piers and foundations. The buttresses on the north and south sides do a similar job. And yet, there's much more to this building than just its most prominent feature. You see, while Hagia Sophia isn't technically considered one of the ancient wonders of the world, only the Great Pyramid remains from that list, take a look at these. A set of 8 green marble columns brought in to support the arches and galleries, or upper floors, of the cathedral. They're believed to have been recycled from the Temple of Artemis, which is, or was, one of the ancient wonders. Meanwhile, this red stone set into the floor could only be found in Egypt's eastern desert. You'll find it in the Ophalion, the site where emperors were crowned for hundreds of years. Meanwhile, the yellow stone found in the decorative wall coatings came from Syria. Marble was shipped from what is now Tunisia and Algeria. In other words, the materials here were sourced from far and wide.
Now, I don't know about you, but all these glorious shots of Istanbul have got me thinking that it might be the perfect city to settle down in. Just imagine waking up to stunning views over the Bosphorus, and who knows, maybe the Hagia Sophia itself. I could definitely get used to that. In fact, I'm so sold on the idea that I've gone ahead and designed my own apartment, a penthouse obviously, all for when I'm ready to make my move. Now honestly, a Byzantine emperor would be pretty happy here, it's a pretty swish pad. But I wonder what architects and engineers from the 6th century would think about the tech that I've used to create it. Rayon Design is a next generation, fully web-based CAD platform that'll have you making professional, polished architectural drawings in no time. It takes the whole design process from initial concept to final documentation and massively streamlines it. There are over 50,000 built-in CAD blocks to speed up production, and because it's an all-in-one system, there's no switching between software. Even if your client is like Justinianus and really picky about their decor, you need not fear. Rayon Design's AI-powered tools let you generate your own custom blocks using images and prompts instantly. And when it comes to collaboration, its fully cloud-native system allows teams to work together in real time through a single source of truth model. So if you're an architect, a designer, or an urban planner, why not try Rayon Design for free today using the link below or scanning the QR code on screen. Now, it's time to enter the next chapter in the extraordinary story of this building. Now, while the Hagia Sophia goes to show what people in power were capable of, even way back in history, it's nothing compared to the power of nature.
Big earthquakes happened in several cities close to Istanbul, like the earthquake 99. It happened to another city, but it affected Istanbul a lot.
But natural disasters are hardly a problem exclusive to the modern era, are they? The architects of the Hagia Sophia wouldn't have known they were working close to a fault zone, and in fact big earthquakes were recorded in what is now modern-day Greece, Italy and Turkey around the same time that this building was starting out.
It explains why there were some complications in what was actually the third attempt to build this place. Just over 20 years after completion, in the year 558, the now iconic dome collapsed. It had fallen victim to one of these earthquakes, but not only that, engineers realised it had been built too shallow. You see, even with those pendentives, loads were being transferred to the walls, which caused the supporting structures to crack, shift and weaken. Adding more lateral forces, like the ones you get in an earthquake, proved to be the final straw. So the dome was rebuilt with a higher crown, or apex, and a series of ribs, ensuring forces were distributed straight to the structural supports instead.
But there was more trouble to come. Once rebuilt, the dome suffered further partial collapses in both the 10th and 14th centuries, often caused by earthquakes. But the dome you see today has actually been there since the 15th century, some 600 years ago.
That's when Constantinople fell to the Ottoman Empire and the Hagia Sophia was converted from a church to a mosque. As you might imagine, that led to several changes. For example, many of the Christian mosaics were covered up or plastered over before being rediscovered much later. This was when those towering minarets, which are used to recite the call to prayer, were constructed. The first two were built shortly after the conquest, but the others were added a century later, and not just for religious reasons.
When the city was conquered by the Ottomans, the building was not in good condition. In the 16th century, there was a big problem. The building was about to collapse, so the Mimar Sinan, who is the most famous architect in our history, added 2 more minarets. When you look at the minaret base, they are huge, much bigger than other minaret bases, because each minaret is a buttress. So they're actually supporting the building.
After that, the next 400 years or so passed without too much drama, well, for Hagia Sophia at least. That was until the mid-1930s, when this city once again found itself adapting to a completely new regime. A decade earlier, the Ottomans had been overthrown, and the Republic of Turkey was born with a series of secular reforms.
Modern Turkey, strong and stable, was created out of a dying Oriental despotism by one man, unique in history.
Founding father Mustafa Kemal Ataturk wanted to show the world his new country didn't favour any particular religion. As proof of this, Hagia Sophia was turned into a museum, so people from all walks of life could sample its unique history. Christian mosaics that had been hidden for centuries were uncovered and displayed next to the Islamic calligraphy of later centuries. Nowhere else would you find so much iconography from both of the world's biggest religions in the same building.
But there was to be one more transformation as the Hagia Sophia entered the decade we're currently in. In 2020, President Erdogan reversed the 1934 decree and the building became a mosque again.
It means the main floor is now exclusively for Islamic worship, while the galleries above are open to non-Muslims. Despite being popular with many Turks,
we are very pleased that Hagia Sophia will be reverted into a mosque. We are very excited.
The best and biggest decision ever made for Turkey.
Choosing to make what had become a shared heritage site a religious building once again didn't exactly please everyone.
1000 years it served as a church, then let's say 1000 years it served as a mosque. I think it should have stayed as a museum. If you go inside, you can understand. In the walls, on the marbles, Viking visitors carved their names.
The fact there's been so much debate about what it should now be used for shows just how important this building still is to people right around the world. But what had to happen next was beyond dispute, because by then it was 2023, the year Turkey faced two devastating earthquakes on the same day.
The 7.8 magnitude tremor struck before dawn and was followed by a number of aftershocks.
And then, just 9 hours after the first, a second shallow quake, measuring 7.5 magnitude. Its tremors felt across the Middle East.
The impact was devastating for the Turkish people, with the most severe destruction seen in the southeast and centre of the country. Although situated away from the worst-hit areas, a multi-year plan was drawn up to address the centuries-old fatigue in the structure of Hagia Sophia, and of course to make sure it's ready in case the next disaster hits closer to home.
2 years later, work on reinforcing the building began, and immediately the complexity of this project would have been staring the restoration team in the face because they didn't yet know what state the dome was in. So the first job was literally to make a series of openings allowing them to see inside.
They discovered that over time, and after previous collapses, extra material had been added in to give the dome its round-ish shape, which means that technically it's no longer actually a perfect circle. But more importantly, these interventions made the dome heavier than it should be.
We opened 24 spaces symmetrically above the dome. During this study, we can say that it has 3 parts from different centuries. In some places, they cannot fit each other correctly. It has been filled with soil and some wooden beams in order to make it roundish. So they added extra loads to the dome. One of the aim is to remove the extra loads, make it lighter.
Above this, the team discovered that the lead coverings on the main and semi-domes are now worn and damaged, so they're being replaced, which will help to strengthen the system that supports them. Because this will open up part of the roof, the dome is being shrouded by a steel structure to protect it from the elements, as well as to prevent damage to the inside of the building, including the historic artwork, which has already been experiencing centuries of wear and tear.
We took a decision to make a great scaffolding to keep the main dome from the outer weather effects. A rain of half an hour can damage not only the dome itself, we also need to preserve the mosaics beneath it. So we had to be very careful.
To support the steel structure and prevent it from adding more weight to the dome while giving workers access to the inner side, 4 large piers were installed underneath. Although pretty hard to miss, these towers have actually been carefully arranged so they don't get in the way of worshippers. It's important to recognise this restoration is about much more than just the dome. There is loads to do here.
They're also restoring the floor, columns, mosaics. The marble floor has a damage. The marble floor of the upper gallery was restored before it was open to the public as a museum. They're going to do the same thing on the ground floor.
A lot of effort has gone into being as non-intrusive as possible with the restoration. After all, this is an active place of worship and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But still, the methods used to bring in heavy materials has created some concern. Trucks and cranes were driven right inside for the first time ever, onto a surface that was built centuries before these vehicles even existed. In other words, that floor wasn't originally designed to carry this sort of weight, so you can understand why people were a bit concerned.
Thankfully, Hassan and his colleagues made preparations beforehand. They tested the soil, commissioned radar scans, and undertook load calculations before constructing a special platform to support the weight of the trucks.
There is a multi-layered temporary floor before the cranes get inside. There are many layers. Initially sent to the thickness of 10 centimeters, and then very different kinds of membranes, wooden floors, etc.
You can imagine how stressful that must have been for the team. Despite all those calculations, all those preparations, you never know until the truck properly drives in, and there must have been some nerves about what would happen if something didn't go to plan at that point. As for what they need to do to give the dome more seismic resistance, because the project's still in its early stages, a lot of those details are still being worked out.
But one thing they know they have to address is where the main and semi-domes, which aren't properly connected, could strike or hammer against each other in another earthquake.
The main issue here is the hammering case. During the earthquake, the semi-domes who were constructed to support it, they may be harmful and destructive for the main dome. So in this restoration, they intend to connect these weak points with the main dome in order to make them work together, not individually.
While we wait for the most critical phase to get started, there has been a remarkable discovery. When examining the western garden and northern facade, workers uncovered a tunnel network that's even older than Hagia Sophia, dating from around 1600 years ago. The fact that we now know there are ancient structures above and below the ground here makes it even clearer just how important this project is. Because if it isn't completed, who knows what the end result might be. We've seen how incidents like the fire at Notre Dame in Paris and the collapse of Christchurch Cathedral in New Zealand caused heartbreak around the world. Should the Hagia Sophia find itself in a similar situation when it's managed to stand firm for so long, the response would be truly seismic.
It's why projects like these are so important. Restorations that prevent disasters like the ones we saw in France and New Zealand. Too often, we find ourselves mourning the loss of great buildings, wishing we hadn't left things so late.
There is not a lot of buildings still standing that old. Whenever I go in to Hagia Sophia, I feel every inch of the building is precious. It's a common heritage. It is humankind heritage. It is the heritage of two very important religions. That's why we have to handle it carefully, very carefully.
This video was sponsored by Rayon Design. Don't forget that you can learn more about Rayon Design and try it out for free using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen. It massively helps us out here at the B1M when you guys take the time to go and check out our video sponsors. So please take the time to do that. We would really appreciate it. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.